I've been wearing the Garmin Fenix 8 every single day for over 3 months now. And I originally bought this watch for one reason, to see if it could replace my Apple Watch Ultra 3. And my plan was simple. I figured I'd wear both of them for a while, compare them side by side, and see which one made more sense from everyday life. Honestly, I figured I'd end up going back to the Ultra. What I didn't expect was that this watch would actually change the way I think about training completely. It changed how I run, it changed how I think about recovery, and it even changed what I want from a watch. In fact, it changed things so much that I ended up selling my Apple Watch Ultra 3, and if you know me, that honestly surprised me as well. So in this video, I want to break down everything I've learned after actually living with it. The things that matter, the things that surprise me, and the features that really make a difference if you're serious about training. And there's also one feature on this watch that has nothing to do with running that ended up being way better than I expected. And to be clear, the Apple Watch is still the best smartwatch you can buy. There's really no question about it. The integration with the iPhone, the apps, the notifications, the ecosystem, Apple absolutely nails the experience. But after I turned 40, I started taking my fitness a lot more seriously. I got really into running. I started paying attention to heart rate zones, training load, recovery, sleep, all the things that actually impact performance. And pretty quickly, I started to notice something interesting. Most serious runners weren't wearing Apple Watches. Now, that doesn't mean you can't be a serious runner with an Apple Watch. I'm sure plenty of people do. But when you look around at races, training groups, or even YouTube channels focused on running, the majority of people tend to be wearing Garmin's. And I think the reason is pretty simple. The Apple Watch is a smartwatch first and a fitness tool second. Garmin watches are built the other way around. They're training devices, training watches first. And that's what I realized I actually really wanted and needed. The first thing that surprised me about this watch wasn't the fitness tracking. It was something much simpler. The buttons. The 5 buttons on this. Garmin uses physical buttons instead of relying completely on a touchscreen. And at first, it actually kind of felt old school to me because I'm so used to using the Apple Watch and a watch being a touchscreen device. But once you start actually training with the watch, the buttons make a ton of sense. When you're running and sweating, when it's raining, when you're wearing gloves, when you're moving quickly during a workout, touchscreens are just frustrating. And buttons just work every single time. You can start workouts instantly, you can mark laps, pause activities, scroll through screens to see your data without worrying about whether the screen's gonna respond. And after a few weeks of using it, I actually started to prefer it. And it felt faster, more reliable, and more intentional when you're actually in the middle of a workout. But the feature that actually affected my daily life the most wasn't the training metrics. It was the battery. When I had the Apple Watch, I got used to charging it every day and it became part of my routine. I'd throw it on the charger while I was showering or getting ready in the morning and it worked fine. I didn't really think about it. But once you switch to something like the Fenix 8, you realize how convenient it is to not charge your watch all the time. With my usage, I usually throw this on the charger once every 2 or 3 weeks. That's it. And that is GPS being used on a regular basis for fitness, that is workouts, all that. And that completely changes how you think about the device. You're not constantly checking battery percentage. You're not planning when to charge it. You're not topping it off before a trip or a long workout. You just wear the watch and forget about the battery entirely. And as someone who comes from analog watches where you don't worry about battery, that's a pretty awesome thing. And another thing you start to realize is that it's probably much better for the battery itself when you're not charging it every single day, because lithium batteries last longer when they go through fewer charge cycles. So the fact that this thing lasts weeks instead of days is actually a pretty big advantage long term if you're planning on keeping the watch. Now let's talk about training insights and recovery. Where Garmin really starts to separate itself is with the training insights. Things like your training readiness, your recovery time, training load, VO2 max estimates, and a bunch of other metrics all work together to give you a bigger picture of how your body is responding to the training. And what I've learned over the past few months is that Garmin doesn't necessarily tell you exactly what to do all the time, but it gives you really helpful context. See, if you've been pushing hard for several days in a row, your recovery score will reflect that. And if your training load is building in a healthy way, you'll see that too. But if you're overtraining, the watch will usually give you some indication that you might want to back off a bit. And over time, you start recognizing patterns between sleep, training intensity, recovery, and performance. And that's been really a big thing for me as someone who's new into this whole fitness journey. And talking about heart rate training, another area where I went deeper once I switched to the Garmin was heart rate training. See, when you're training seriously, heart rate matters a lot, especially if you're trying to stay in certain zones during workouts or running. Wrist-based heart rate sensors are pretty good these days, but they're not always perfect, and I especially noticed that early in workouts. So I ended up picking up the Garmin HRM 600 chest strap. And honestly, I think this is an incredible accessory if you actually really care about accurate training data from a heart rate perspective. See, once I started using the chest strap, the heart rate readings became extremely consistent. When I would look down at a run on my watch, I could trust the numbers completely, where I didn't feel like I could with just the wrist-based. Now, another thing I really appreciate about Garmin is the ecosystem around it. See, Garmin supports a wide range of external sensors like heart rate straps, cycling sensors, running dynamic sensors, golf sensors, and everything just pairs directly to the watch so you can see your metrics on the watch, which is great. And when you start taking training seriously, those accessories become really useful. And having one device that acts as the central hub for all the data is, I think, a really huge advantage when you're actually working out. Now, one thing I've really enjoyed tracking heavily is sleep. And I added another piece to my Garmin setup, and that's the Garmin Index Sleep Monitor. And this is basically a dedicated sleep tracker you wear at night instead of sleeping with the watch. I have never liked sleeping with a big watch on my wrist, especially something as substantial as the Fenix or a watch that is this large. So having a separate device that tracks sleep and is comfortable and it still integrates perfectly with the Garmin Connect is really, really nice. I take the watch off at night. I wear the Index Sleep Monitor on my bicep. It's very soft, and I still get all the sleep data that feeds into my recovery and training and my readiness scores. It's a really, really smooth solution that does exactly what it should, but yet you don't have to wear the bulky watch to bed. Now, there's one feature on the watch that I didn't even factor into my decision when I bought it, and it ended up being way better than I expected, and that is Garmin Golf. Now, I love playing golf. But when I bought the Fenix 8, I was mostly thinking about running and training. Then I discovered how good Garmin actually is in the golf world. Garmin is one of the leaders when it comes to golf watches and golf tracking technology and even launch monitors now. And when you start a round, the watch loads the course and gives you accurate yardage to the front, middle, back of the green. It also shows distances to all the major hazards on the hole, things like sand traps, water hazards, other trouble spots. You can scroll through those hazards right on the watch and see exactly how far away they are. It also includes features like play-like yardage, which adjusts the distance based on elevation changes and slope. And if you pair the watch with the Garmin club sensors, it goes even further. The sensors actually attach to your clubs, and the watch automatically tracks every shot you take during the round, what club you used, how far the ball traveled, and where it landed. And then you can go back after your round and actually take a look at every shot you hit and know what club you hit, how far you hit it. It's honestly pretty incredible technology, and the fact that it's free. And for someone like me who enjoys golf but originally bought the watch for running and training, it was a really cool bonus feature to discover that I never really even thought of. Now, something I didn't expect when switching to Garmin was the identity shift that came with wearing this watch. The Apple Watch always felt like a tiny iPhone on your wrist, and the Garmin just feels like a training tool. When I look down at the watch during the day, it reminds me why I bought it. To train, to improve, and to stay consistent, and it absolutely has made me better. And that psychological shift actually makes a big difference to me, and I think it makes a big difference to a lot of people. It motivates me more to get out and run on a daily basis, or to go to the gym, or to just do something to continue to improve my fitness. And that's something that cannot be ignored. Now, no device is perfect. The Garmin definitely isn't as good of a smartwatch as the Apple Watch. Things like texting notifications, apps, ecosystem integration are still going to be better on Apple. I am not going to lie and act like this is the best smartwatch you can buy. But if your primary goal is having the smartest smartwatch possible, the Apple Watch wins. But if your focus is training, fitness, endurance sports, and outdoor activities, That is where I feel like Garmin really shines. So what I can say is after wearing the Garmin Fenix 8 every single day for over 3 months, I can confidently say that this is my favorite watch I've ever owned. It's not trying to be the best smartwatch. It's trying to be the best training watch. And for someone like me, who has gotten much more serious into running, fitness, and improving my overall health, that's exactly what I wanted from a watch. It has truly helped me change how I think about training. It has truly helped me change how I track recovery. And honestly, it made me enjoy the process much more. And the constant reminder, looking down at where I'm trying to become, has helped. And for me, it officially replaced the Apple Watch, and I can't see myself going back anytime soon. Thanks so much for watching, and if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. I'd love to answer them for you.